Hey board gamers, BJ from Game Gumbo here, back in the Gumbo Pot with our continuing series, Rules You Just Might Miss on your first play of a game. This time we're taking a look at Vantage, the hot new game from Stonemaier Games. I've absolutely been adoring this game. I've played it so many times the last 2 weeks, and the rule book is pretty good, but there's been a couple of things that tripped me up, and I wanted to put this video out to make sure that you don't get tripped up also. Also, a note, Jamie Stonemaier has put out a great fact on his website and also on the BGG page, and that helps out a lot with some of these little rules. But let's get right to that Game Talkers LLC table and take a look at Vantage and the rules you just might miss the first time you play. So this is Vantage. It's a game for 1 to 6 players from Stonemaier Games. It's an open world. It's not, you can't even call it Choose Your Own Adventure because it's open world sandbox. You do what you want. You design the game as you want as you're playing. So you've crash landed on this planet and you're trying to complete missions, quests, and personal objectives and all those other things to try to win. This is the center board. Anytime you see center in the rulebook, that's what they're talking about. This center here. And that's shared between all the players. I've been playing it solo, so I haven't had to worry about that. These are the dice that you're going to be using to do your skill checks. And of course, these dice come into play at the start of the game when you're doing the setup, and maybe some other times during the game. I won't spoil all that. Alright, so let's get to 2 quick, easy rules, then I'll get to 3 other rules that kind of trip me up. The 2 easy rules, the first one is these boost cubes. The boost cubes are these little gray cubes. And when you play a card, sometimes it'll say, when played, put out 2 cubes. What they're talking about is on that card. So, as a refresher, when you're playing boost cubes, unless it says otherwise, the boost cubes are played or used from your character card. That's the one you start out with. That's the character that has the special powers that you're going to be playing during the game. And it's the one that goes in the center of the grid of 9 cards that you're going to be playing. But when it comes to skill tokens, there's 2 things I want to point out. Number 1, when you see that in a rule, or on a card, or in one of the storybooks. In other words, if you see, I can't remember all the names of the skills, but if you see the name of the skill in that color, and it says something like gain this or do that or something, what they're saying is just to gain that token. So blue is movement. If it says gain movement in blue, it's just telling you to get that token. And so now you have an extra token to use. And what are those for? Early in the game, and throughout the game of course, they're just reducing the number of dice that you have to roll as part of that skill check. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you're in a field and you see a tower, and one of the actions says knock down that tower, and it's in red. Okay, what they're referring to is the red action, right? Which I think is overpower. So when you click on that in the Rule Pop website, by the way, I recommend the Rule Pop website that Jamie talks about. It's fantastic. It really speeds the game up and gets you into the game. Or if you go into the red rule book, red storybook, you'll then look at that action and see how many dice you're expected to roll. It may say something like knock down 6. Okay, that means that you have to roll 6 dice. So you want to reduce that a lot of times. To reduce it, you can spin the corresponding skill tokens. So that's all that means. Is if you have, say, knock down 6 and it's red, and you have 2 in your inventory like this, 2 of these red tokens, overpower tokens, you can spin those to reduce it down to 4, which might make it a little bit easier for you to do. Alright, so that's the two easy ones. It's where to put the cubes, where they come from, and what are these skill tokens, how do you get them back. You'll see little symbols that say gain movement. It doesn't mean that you gain, you don't get to move, it's just saying you gain a movement token. And then what to do with spinning them. It's whenever you see knock down 6, it doesn't mean you have to have 6 of these or even 1 of these. You don't even need a single one of these red tokens. All you need is 6 dice, which can be reduced by spending those red tokens. Continue is a little tricky one because every once in a while you'll see a card or a story that says, it's a story usually, that says, do this, you wander through the field and nothing happens. Continue. What that means is it's changing, it's kind of trumping the rule that normally states that when you're looking at a location and you're looking at the up to 6 actions at that location, you can only do one of those actions once. In other words, when you go to that location, let's say it's location 100, if you go to location 100 and it has 6 actions, you're going to pick one of those if you want to do a location action. And no matter how many times you come back to that card, you can't do one of those actions. You've taken that action for the game. And thematically it makes sense. Let's say the card is card 100 and it's a field with a hot air balloon. And one of the actions says, pop the balloon. Well, obviously if you pop that balloon, things in the story have changed on that card. So the next time you come through, you're not going to take all those other actions because, it's a different time period. The hot air balloon's not there anymore. Or so maybe some of the other actions relate to the hot air balloon, like climb in the hot air balloon, push the hot air balloon, blow up the hot air balloon. Any of those things are not going to be available for you. So thematically, I thought it was a really good design from Jamie Stegmaier to say, when you get to this location, you're going to take that one of those actions once, and you can't take any of the other actions unless it says otherwise. One of those otherwise is continue. Sometimes you'll see, just follow the instructions on the continue. It'll generally say something like, continue, meaning you can stay in that location and take another action. Or sometimes it'll say, continue, and you can do a certain action easier. I don't want to spoil it, I'll just let the game explain it. Just read it carefully and you'll see it. And that should explain it. Actions on the vertical cards. So when you're trying to figure out what to do in your turn, you can move, and you know that you can do location actions, one of the up to 6 actions. But is there anything else you can do? I mean, you can move, you can take location actions. Sure. Actions on vertical cards in your grid can always be taken on your turn. Sometimes they can be taken multiple times during the course of the game. For instance, on your character card, you come standard with 3, master, buy, and equip. Master is working on a skill, buying is buying some stuff, and equip is generally that piece of equipment that really helps your character. For instance, if I remember right, this is the medic, and this is Ira the medic, and Ira the medic may have certain tools at his disposal or her disposal that you can use to further the story in the game. So, pro tip, you might want to do the equip action, maybe even the master action, and as soon as you get some money, maybe the buy action, as soon as possible, because you're going to get some stuff, and getting cards in your grid is one of the ways that you can really work on some of those goals in the game. So, hey, do you. Vantage is all about your experience, but I've had a lot better experiences when my character actually has equip. Think about it. It's like any computer adventure game. You're going to need stuff. You're going to need equipment, right? So movement is the blue action, and it's one of the main actions that you're going to take in the game. You're going to take it dozens and dozens of times in the game. So generally speaking, 2 ways of moving, without spoiling, might be other ways, but generally speaking, 2 ways of moving. And one of those, if you look on the top of the location card, it's got the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, and most of the time it has a number on there. That number corresponds to a location card in the box. So if I'm looking at a field and there's a hot air balloon, and I see at the top of my location card a mountain, I might want to move to that mountain, and it looks like it's generally in the north. If I look on that cardinal directions, I might see a number like 426 in the north. That means that I can move to 426, the location card. But I have to roll a skill check to do that. It's just 1 die, and if I want to, if I have one, I can spin a blue movement token to do that movement and not have to roll the die. So key takeaway, I don't have to have a blue token to move. This is just to reduce the die that I normally have to roll when moving to a numbered location. So roll that die, and whatever it says, that's what I got. That's the action I gotta do. Like for instance, this one is the put it back in the challenge pool. So the other symbols that could be in the cardinal directions besides numbers, and remember, moving to a number is just a 1 die skill check. And if you want to, you can spend a blue token instead of rolling the die. The other symbols that could be are either stars, which means you go to the other blue book, which is about, I just can't remember the name of it, sorry Jamie. It's the one where you're actually going to have to do something to get to that move. Let me give you an example. In that example where I'm looking at a field and there's a hot air balloon and I see a mountain in the background, maybe instead of saying 426, it's got a star. That means that if I want to go that way, I'm probably going to have to do something. And then you can think about what it is. I'm going to have to climb something, right? So I go into that storybook, the one that is focused on moving, not the movement storybook, the whatever the other name of the other one is. And when I look at it, I might have to do something. For instance, in that one, it might say climb 6, and it's in blue. That means I got to do a 6 dice skill check, and I can reduce that 6 dice by any blue tokens I have because it's a blue one. It could, there could be a lot of things. There could be, there could be a pit or a big monster or something. But you know that that's what that is. So that's the 2 ways. So just refresh on movement. If you're trying to move to a number, it's a 1 die skill check, and you can reduce that 1 die by spinning these blue tokens. If it doesn't have a number and it's got a star instead, you're going to go to the other storybook about movement. I just can't remember the name, and you're going to do what that one says according to that location. Again, if it calls for a skill check, you can reduce those by whatever the skill check is. If it's blue, you'd use blue skill tokens. Just remember, you can be out of skill tokens completely and still do all the actions in the book unless a rule says otherwise, because moving is just a die, taking actions are generally skill checks using these black dice. So the skill tokens are just there to help make it easier to pass the skill check by reducing the number of dice that you have to use. Alright, I went a little longer than I thought, sorry about that. There's some rules that I really want you to understand so that you can get that first game of Vantage rolling. Until next time, laissez les bon temps rouler.